So this video is intended to give us a really quick review of where pi comes from. And we've already done this investigation with the flip grid assignment that we did, where you all found a round object and you measured its circumference and you measured its diameter. And then you divided the circumference by the diameter to confirm that that ratio was a fairly constant number, which ultimately represented pi. Now, we already know that pi has a given value or an estimated value of 3.14. And we can prove that as long as we can fairly accurately measure both the circumference and the diameter of a circle. We can confirm that pi, no matter how big or how small the circle is, will always be that estimated value of 3.14. So you look at the first circle that we have here, you notice the circumference that's drawn around is 6.28 units, and it's being divided by a diameter of 2 units. And that does indeed, if you do your calculations, that does indeed turn out to give us a value of 3.14. Now, we're basing this on the premise that we've been able to very accurately measure the circumference and likewise very accurately measure the diameter. So based on those two accurate measurements, when we divide the circumference by the diameter of this first circle, we get a ratio or a value of 3.14. If we do that one more time, you notice this circle, its diameter is twice as big. Its circumference also looks twice as big. So if we take the given circumference of 12.56, we divide by the given diameter of 4. Once again, we will prove that we get a value of 3.14. So that will, or approximately 3.14. So that will always be the case. So that's really important for us to work with because we want to be able to take this formula and be able to manipulate it so that we can use it to more generally solve for the circumference. So if I start with this formula once again, pi equals circumference divided by diameter. And what I would like to do is ultimately rewrite this to solve for the circumference. Well, we can take the same approaches that we take for solving any equation and use inverse operations. So the fact that circumference is being divided by diameter right now, I can multiply both sides by the diameter. The diameter is going to cancel, leaving me with circumference is equal to pi times diameter. And that is the formula that we will rely upon for solving for the circumference of a circle. To solve for the circumference of a circle, we will simply take that value of pi, 3.14, and multiply it by whatever our known value is for the diameter. So if I were to work backwards, I know that pi is 3.14. Going back to the circle, I know that the diameter is 2. And if I did, or if I multiplied 3.14 times 2, I would indeed confirm that the circumference is what we started with, 6.28 units. Likewise, if I use the same formula over here, circumference equals pi times diameter. But once again, we're going to work with the fact that pi is known as 3.14, and we multiply it by the known diameter for that circle times 4. So that we want to prove that the circumference is as it was measured. 3.14 times 4 will give us a circumference of 12.56. So this is a key formula for us to work with. To find the circumference of any circle, we can say it is equal to multiplying pi times the diameter. And the only other thing I will point out, because there's a variation to this, is the diameter is also nothing more than the radius of the circle times 2. So an alternative to this is circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. So that is an alternate formula. So the first formula would be used if you're given the diameter already. So to solve the circumference by calculating pi times diameter, it's because you're going to be provided the diameter already. The other variation to the formula, circumference equals 2 times pi times r, is going to be what you use if you were provided the radius of the circle to begin with. So those are the two formulas you want to use. And I'm going to ask you to do some quick practice on delta math using both of these formulas. And what you can do is always stick to pi being that value of 3.14, and as necessary, and you will be instructed to do so, as necessary, round your answers to the nearest tenth. Okay, so these answers are not rounded to the nearest tenth, but your answers in delta math will get rounded to the nearest tenth. So this would be approximately 6.3 units, and this would be approximately 12.6 units after we round to the nearest tenth. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do. We use both of these formulas, which should be familiar to you. Use the one that's relevant based on either being provided the diameter or being provided the radius, and solve for the circumference.